a lot of times in marriage, when there's conflict, it escalates and it snowballs into something so much bigger than what it even started out as. How can a stronger focus on grace help us handle that marital conflict?
Well, the reality is everybody's jacked up to some degree. I mean, we all have bad days. We all have some inclinations and things. And if we don't get grace, we're going to be on each other's nerves quick because you're around each other all the time.
Yeah.
And what scripture in Romans 6:14 says, sin will have no dominion over you because you're under grace, not law. So sin will have no dominion over a marriage only if it's under grace, not law. So if you focus on performance, you're going to be frustrated by a failure to perform adequately. If you focus on grace, you can love one another despite their deficiencies, like God does us. While we're yet sinners, Christ died for us. How do you love one another? Like that. While your wife's yet a sinner, die for her. While your husband's yet a sinner, die for him. And then you put that free gift. I mean, we get unmerited favor from Jesus, unmerited love, unmerited because he just loves us. He just chooses to give his love to us, irrespective of our behaviors. And then it says, how do you love one another like that? So what I find is for us, it just changed the complete atmosphere of our home, because you're talking about how did it snowball? Well, it doesn't snowball if there's grace, because you have a rescue mentality. Be the man that falls and there's no one to help him up. Your spouse struggles, it manifests in an unpleasant way. So as opposed to taking offense, you love and you pursue. Now, we're not talking about tolerating infidelity or abuse. We're just talking about the day-to-day struggles. And then sin has no dominion. The ministry of reconciliation is put on display. And although your spouse knows the worst of you, they're your biggest fan.
You mentioned the aspect of loving someone despite their deficiencies. What would you say to the person who's having trouble actually admitting their own deficiencies? Because sometimes we're very good at seeing the errors in the other person's ways or the errors in our spouse's ways. We're not always the greatest at seeing our own struggles. So what would you say to people who are struggling to even see that, yeah, I do have my blind spots?
Well, if you're a human on this planet, you have deficiencies is the first thing I would say. And then two, when I counsel with couples, I will say, stay in your lane. Just stay in your lane. And I'd ask them, how effective has it been trying to change your spouse? You getting on them about what they're doing wrong, you giving consequences. How is your change strategy working? Of course it's not. So if you stay in your lane, like for me, I tend to struggle with not being gentle. I tend to struggle with being overcommitted. I tend to struggle with working too much. If I focus in that lane and focus on giving Marilyn grace, we have a great marriage. If I focus on Marilyn's lane, what I wish she was that she's not, and then don't stay in my lane, our marriage gets off track quick.
Well, I want to bring up the subtitle of your book. The subtitle is How the Gospel plus Intentionality Will Transform a Marriage. Now, when we think of the gospel, the good news, we often think of evangelism. How does the gospel also transform a marriage?
Yeah, it's grace. I mean, so when Marilyn loves me, Marilyn's my wife, and she gives service and gifts and kindness and affirmation to me is just a free gift of grace because she chooses to love me. And it's like, I'm fully known, fully loved, and she holds nothing against me. It's the most amazing place. And that's grace. It's this grace. It's like, I give you gifts. It's not because what you do for me. It's just because I love you. And nothing can separate you from my love. And I've given you a commitment, a covenant, till death do us part, and you can bank on it. And then when I'm doing bad, Marilyn loves me. When I'm doing well, Marilyn loves me. And as a result, our marriage is the most secure relationship I have or have ever had because our marriage is under grace of Jesus.